Thanks very much, Helen, and welcome from me too. I'm delighted to be here representing TEDI-London and telling you all about it. And I'm most delighted to have our panellists who are very exciting. So we'll spend a lot of time with them. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about TEDI-London. So TEDI-London is a startup engineering higher education institution. And what we want to do is develop an engineering curriculum that is very different from how engineering is taught up to now. Engineers are very much needed in today's society in order to help and contribute to and solve global problems. And we know that we need 20,000 new engineers a year. But not only do we need more engineers, we need different engineers. We need engineers who can think globally, who are aware of social issues. So even the COVID-19 situation, if we had more globally focused and socially aware engineers, we could have dealt with this a little bit better, in my opinion. So we need more engineers. It's been documented. The way we can help our engineering graduates become globally focused and socially aware is by having them work on projects from day one, as soon as they start on our courses. So we are concentrating on developing a curriculum that will be project-based learning. So we're not going to have lectures. We're not going to have just people talking at you, but we're going to have people working on real industry-led projects from the time they start. And we'll also have some facilitation, some online learning, some, you still have to learn how to solve problems and do problems and tutorials. And we'll have lots of interaction in our degree. One of the reasons that engineers haven't been socially aware and globally focused as much as needed is because they're not really diverse. People with diverse backgrounds make better teams. And so we're trying to make sure that our students, our professionals in training, will be from diverse backgrounds. Diverse gender, ethnicity, ways of thinking, different disciplines. That's really important for making sure that the projects that they solve will get really good socially viable solutions. So our founders are three very high-powered research-intensive universities: King's College in London, Arizona State University in Phoenix, and the University of New South Wales in Sydney. So across the globe, we have three very, very strong engineering universities who have come together to say we are going to start a brand new engineering school. And our founding industry partner is British Land, and I'm delighted that David's with us today from British Land. British Land are the developers that are responsible for developing the Canada Water site into a major urban centre, a smart city. And having our campus there on the site is a great opportunity for our students to be involved in projects that will contribute to that urban development. And so I'm really looking forward to that. So our vision is to transform engineering education, and we're here today to find out what that means. To discuss this, we're joined by 4 members of our inaugural summer school program that we ran last year, and by David Walters from British Land. So I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves with their name and where they come from, and a short sentence about their studies and their work. So I'm going to start with you, Nicholas.
Hi. I'm Nicholas. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm a 4th year industrial design student. And I participated in the summer school last year. It was a great experience. Did I cover everything there? I think so.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll get back to the experience later. Marianne?
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam. I'm from Arizona State University in the United States, and I'm currently doing my master's in biomedical engineering.
Excellent. Nienke?
Hi, I'm Nienke. I'm originally from the Netherlands, but I've been studying philosophy for the last 3 years at King's College London. And yeah, I'm now finished. So.
And Vivian?
Hi everyone, I'm Vivian and I've just finished up my Bachelor of Bioinformatics Engineering and my Master of Biomedical Engineering at the University of New South Wales in Sydney.
And David.
Hello, I'm David Bolters. I am a project director working for British Land on the Canada Water Master Plan, and we've been working with Judy and the team for a while now at Canada Water, including hosting last year's summer school.
Excellent. So let me just tell you, thank you so much, everybody. Let me just tell you a little bit about the summer school that we had last year. And we have another one coming up, but last year was our very first summer school, and we had a 3-week intensive residential school at our campus at the Printworks where we are, and it was a pilot on project-based learning. It was a design exercise, just 3 weeks to work out a design on some of the projects that could help the Canada Water development. It was also a way of understanding if engineers and non-engineers could work together on engineering problems, and that was just a really good pilot on that. And then it was also helped inform us on what we need to put in our makerspace and our labs, and that was very important in developing our new engineering school. And finally, we also used it to bring industry in to understand our proposition. We had a pitching session, and we could use how industry-led problems could help our students as well as industry. So I'm going to ask some questions of the panel, and I'll direct the students, or more than one of the students, so that they don't all rush in and sort of talk over each other. I'll just ask you by name if you don't mind. So tell us about the projects that you worked on last summer. Vivian, and you can tell us a bit about the outcome as well.
Sure thing. So last summer, I was part of a team that actually included Miriam as well, where we were building a device to help patients who had undergone a stroke and were then seeking rehabilitation. So if they'd lost mobility and they needed to work on building that back. This device works in conjunction with physiotherapy to basically make that treatment more effective and be able to bring it into the home in a more engaging and fun way. So what was really cool about that project is the device that we came together and built. We're now on the road to getting a patent for it. We've actually just secured $15,000 of funding from Arizona State University to get that patent through, which is really exciting, and an incredible outcome for a 3-week project, essentially.
Nyanka, tell us about your project.
So me and my team worked on a project called the Citizen Hub, and we were basically trying to come up with this idea about creating or designing a hub, a space that we could put in Canada Water, which would bring communities together in a sustainable way, kind of trying to find a way how to connect between people and create a space that would really be amazing to bring people together in a beautiful way that would kind of connect with the whole idea of Canada Water and their new sort of urban city plan.
That's fabulous. And Nick?
Yeah, my team worked on building a drinking fountain for that would purify the water from the nearby Canada Water Lake. And we were sort of focused on, I guess, getting the future students of the Canada Water campus to understand the importance of keeping our waterways clean and healthy. And so we looked at a lot of water purification methods and ways that we could educate the local community about that.
Fantastic. And Mariam, I'm going to ask you the next question to be the first responder for the next question. What do you think was the impact of the project-based learning?
So with project-based learning, you use all the concepts that you learned in class in a more hands-on environment like you would see in a workplace. So it better prepares you for an engineering future. And personally, I'm someone who learns better when I apply the concepts while I'm learning. So I feel like I remember those concepts more than if I was just going to learn them for, for a test or something like that.
So Vivian, did you have any other thing about the project-based learning?
I mean, I think Miriam covered a decent portion of it, other than to say, when you start an engineering degree, you don't do that because you have a passion for going to lectures and then taking exams. You do it because you want to build and you want to design and you want to create. So project-based learning actually gets you to go down that path so much earlier, and it's not just 4 years of waiting to tick a box before you can be that engineer. You almost feel like you're starting right away.
And Nyanka, for you as a philosophy student, what did you do a lot of projects in your philosophy degree? Was it different for you?
Yeah, very different. Basically, my whole degree was all essay-based and also quite like individual. So it was a really big difference for me to be thrown into a group for 3 weeks and actually hands-on learn things. But it was really nice because before starting, I felt quite scared and nervous that I wouldn't be able to kind of keep up with the other engineers. But working in a group and working in towards a certain goal or towards a certain project was really helpful and really allowed me as well to learn a lot of things because it was project-based instead of having to learn a lot of theory or anything. So it was perfect.
And how did you feel working in an engineering environment for somebody with a non-engineering background?
It was cool to see that all my sort of preconceptions about it were all wrong. I really thought that having dropped physics very early on that I wouldn't maybe fit in. But engineering has so many different aspects to it. And certainly I think in this time where so many other things have to be considered, right? For example, ethics around like if the thing that you're making is actually good for the world, or sustainability, or how we're gonna bring people together. Other degrees or other ways of thinking are actually also really important. So engineering has so many different sides to it than my preconception that I had, that it was more maybe maths or physics based. So yeah, it really showed me how variation there were.
And Nick, you too, you're not an engineering student. How did you find working with engineering people?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I think in sort of the more design field that I'm in, we're big ideas people, but sometimes we lack those skills to be able to integrate and make our ideas come to reality. So it was really exciting to be able to collaborate with people that had a bit more of that technical know-how about how to get things actually made and actually happening in the real world.
Yeah. And Mariam and Vivian, well, Mariam first, what was it like to work with people who don't have an engineering background?
So me and Vivian, our team was mainly engineers and we had one business student. And I think one thing that's important when making a device is thinking about how you're going to sell it too. So you could make something completely amazing, but have no market for it. So for us, our business student kind of pulled us out of the technical mindset and kind of made us think about who our customer was and how we were going to pitch it to an investor if we needed to.
Yeah. Vivian, do you have anything to add about that?
I mean, yeah, I thought it was actually really fantastic to have non-engineers on the team, just because whenever for example, our business student, her name was Shan, whenever she had a question about a concept and I would explain it to her, to someone with a non-tech background, it actually furthered my understanding of the concept. And really, when you're able to explain something to a non-technical person, you're really able to enhance the way that you understand that concept, which is able to actually help you develop it further. So I actually thought it was really useful to get that other opinion in the mix.
Fantastic. And David, I'm going to ask you, what do you see? What difference in outputs do you see from working in diverse teams? And obviously you work in diverse teams all the time, but how do you see the difference in outputs?
I mean, I think it's in many ways it's night and day. Particularly the kind of challenges we're facing now, and the kind of teams we need to put together to answer those challenges. You know, sustainability, embodied carbon, sustainable transport. What's the future of high streets? All those kind of things that are questions we're kind of thinking about and dealing with as we take forward our plans to Canada Water. You know, it's very hard to answer those kind of challenges unless you've got that kind of diverse team in terms of background, but also in terms of thinking and approach, and the ability to communicate those different approaches. You know, we can't answer those kind of questions and achieve the kind of outcomes we're after without those kind of teams. You know, and it's quite hard, particularly you know, things like sustainability. The impacts of one decision can be so kind of numerous and difficult to track across different specialisms. You know, I spend a lot of time with a whole range of engineers. I'm not an engineer myself. I kind of trained in engineering, but spend a lot of time with some of the best engineers in the world, whether they're structure engineers, mechanical, acousticians, you know, sustainability specialists, architects, all kinds of different specialists. And you know, the kind of thinking that we're talking about here, and the kind of premise that TEDI-London is looking to bring to bear is absolutely how we work now, and is absolutely the kind of engineers we're going to need in the future as these kind of challenges become more and more prevalent.
Yeah, and it's all about language, isn't it? So it's everybody has their own language, and it's just about that translation that we need to do.
Yeah, and it can be tough. You know, you're speaking to people that have come from a very different background and have a completely different perspective. They might be very, very knowledgeable in one area, but very much less so in your area. And you know, we're trying to balance up very, very different demands on many of these issues. So yeah, that ability to communicate with people who don't necessarily think in the same way as you do is a particularly important kind of skill for me.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the students a question that you all have to answer, and you know, you can be discursive. I'll just call upon you one at a time. But the question is, how do you think the summer school experience changed you and your outlook? And I'm going to start with Nick.
Oh wow, okay. I guess I think it helped me work better in teams and understand the way that different people from different disciplines think, and sort of how to communicate my thoughts to them, and then also understand the backgrounds that they were coming from and why they sort of had different views on the world. And I guess it sort of made me think about how I conduct myself in teams, and how I'm able to leverage the talents of every team member that I work with in the future.
Fabulous. Marianne?
So before the summer school, I was set on one career path. It's all I saw as my future, and I didn't think of anything else. And it was just that I wanted to be a doctor, right? And for those who don't know how it works in the US, you have to do an undergraduate degree before you can go to medicine. And so I thought, okay, I'll do biomedical engineering. It has to do with medicine, and I'm good with math, right? And then after having the experiences that I did in TEDI and meeting the great people there, I realized that I actually really enjoyed engineering, specifically the hands-on aspect of it. And there were things that I could do that more fit with my goals with an engineering degree than with a medical degree. And so being a part of the summer school helped me realize the vast amount of opportunities that you could take advantage of with engineering skills.
Fantastic. Inka?
For me personally, it was a bit similar as Marianne, that before the summer school, I was quite set on doing a humanities master's, which kind of fit with my undergrad degree. But during the summer school, I kind of figured out that I am actually really interested in other things, and that I could also do more things that I thought beforehand weren't really available to me. So after the summer school, I decided to apply for a bit more of a business master's, and that worked all out. So I think TEDI really gave me that confidence that actually I was quite good with numbers as well, and kind of bringing all my interests together and kind of adding on to what Nick said, I think working in a team and actually being able to learn from other people from all different backgrounds and nationalities, I think is just a wonderful skill. And I'm really, really grateful that I got the opportunity to experience all of that. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And Vivian, you're still with us.
Yes. So for me, yeah, it's had so many impacts, but I think one of the biggest ones at the time, when I looked at this project, at first I saw it as a university project, much like I saw every other university project that I had done in the past. So my mentality was, we go in, we, you know, build this model, and then we can go back to Australia and it's done. But the different students that we were able to interact with, like their entrepreneurial spirit, converted this project into something that is so much more. And that was actually something that was really led by Miriam and the other ASU students into pushing for what we have created to be something else that we, like, I know myself and the other Australian student didn't see its potential in that way, because we always just saw ourselves as university students and this is a university project. But TEDi showed me that I can create, I can build, I can do something that's going to make a difference now. It doesn't matter whether I'm graduated or not. We can start having that impact very early on. And I think that completely changed the way that I saw university. You know, you see something as a project when really it's an opportunity to create something and put it into the world.
So they're incredible answers, aren't they? To think that a 3-week summer school could change, you know, your life direction, or well, have a potentially patented project come out of it, could change your life direction for several of the people and just make such a difference. Imagine what we can do if we have a whole course based on those sort of projects. And this year's summer school's 5 weeks, and not in London, but it'll be very interesting to see whether we can replicate that experience by having an online summer school. So that's for next year to talk about. But it's just inspiring to have you all and to see that it's had that effect on you. So now I'm going to ask David, what about the summer school, and what did British Land see as outputs that is most exciting to industry?
That is a great question. So, I mean, all 3 projects were great projects. You know, they all touched on issues that we are already thinking about and trying to come up with responses to in our plans for Canada Water. And you could see all of them having a place in you know, they can actually be rolled out and make a meaningful impact on the place. So as Vivian was saying, it's very much not a university project. It's about something that has a real impact on the world. Personally, I thought the community lab, the Citizen Hub, sorry, was my personal favourite project. I could see that playing a really big role in our kind of thinking for what a smart city looks like. And it's worth saying, you know, those kind of things. We're talking about change over really long time horizons. Canada Water will probably take us, you know, at least a decade to build out. You think about the pace of change over that kind of lifetime. So you know, some of these ideas we're coming up with now could play a really big role in our responses to you know, all kind of issues as the world changes. I think the biggest thing for me though was really you know, the wider point of creating engineers that can really work in that kind of multidisciplinary team and be ready to, you know, having finished studies, hit the ground running and make a meaningful contribution in the world. There's so many of the engineers I talk to and work with now who really struggle to find the right engineers that can you know, fulfill their need and help them achieve what they're trying to, because, you know, many of the traditional courses in engineering don't do that. They come out very specialist, understand good foundation in engineering thinking, but don't have the skills to work in that kind of real world project multidisciplinary team and communicate those ideas with a wider audience. So for me, that's really the biggest thing is you know, the way you guys are talking and some of the things you've achieved just from that summer school last year is amazing. And you think what that could lead to in you know, once you're out in industry properly, it's fantastic. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm going to ask you all a closing question too, and it's based on you know, we've been founded on the premise that engineers can help tackle global problems by producing, you know, the new type of future engineer. And we've got a campaign, the 2021 agenda, that is out there asking potential students what the biggest challenge facing us today is. So I'm going to ask each of you, what do you think is the most transformative thing about TEDI-London, and why should students come and study here? After you've told us what you think the biggest challenge facing us today, and I'll tell you what I think our biggest challenge is, and that's sustainable energy, so that we can use the internet, because we absolutely rely on it, telecommunications and the internet. So that's mine. But Nyanka, would you want to tell us what you think the biggest challenge facing us today is?
Ooh, I think so. The biggest challenge I think that we're facing right now has all to do with sustainability and how we can kind of convert into a more sustainable way of working. However, more personally, I think it still more has to do with having girls also in engineering degrees. I think personally I was quite like discouraged when I was younger to go that route. And since I had that experience at TEDI-London, I think it's kind of a bit of a shame that I let it go in a sense. And I think with the whole different background thing, that we just need to strive for more inclusivity into the way how we're working. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now.
Okay. Vivian?
Yeah, so I actually, my answer to this has changed in the last few days, because when I saw the 2021 agenda posted, I had a phone call with a friend of mine. She has a psychology background. And I said to her, oh, you know, what do you think our greatest challenge is? And she said, oh, I'm not too sure. And she was like, what are you thinking? And I said, oh, it probably has something to do with sustainability. And she said, oh, so do you mean like our greenhouse gases and climate change? And I said, no, not quite. More so that we're going to run out of a lot of our resources because they're finite, they're non-renewable, and we're using them like crazy. And we have this timeline, and, you know, and she got kind of concerned, and she said, hold on a minute, I've never heard of this before. Like, I've heard of global warming, but I've not heard of the fact that we're going to run out of these resources. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah, how come my newsfeed and what I'm seeing on the TV is not this? I feel like the whole world should know about this. And then it was at that moment that I realized, I think our greatest challenge is not this issue of sustainability. It's not climate change. It's not a global health pandemic. It's the fact that at the moment, I don't think that our engineers are able to communicate broadly and effectively, because technical experts could have probably told you about a global pandemic well before it was at a point that we lost control. You know, there are tons of experts that are talking about sustainability and the issues that we're having there, but are we actually listening to them as a population? Are we concerned as a wider group? And I don't think that we really are in many cases. So I think we actually need to create engineers that can cross those borders between technical and non-technical. So whatever our greatest challenge is at the moment can be something that we are all collectively concerned about and working toward fixing.
Awesome. Marianne?
That's such a good answer, Vivian. So when I thought about this myself, I thought everybody's going to be like, you know, sustainability and climate change and stuff like that. And so I wanted to be specific in healthcare, right? And so the major global issues that I think about are like malnutrition, tuberculosis, malaria, cholera, and we tend to think that these are like researcher, like scientist issues. But engineers can help with these problems too. You can create devices that help the doctors in diagnosing the patient or treating them, or even, I know that one student at my university built like a mobile like clinic that helped the doctor move to rural areas in those like the villages that couldn't get access to a doctor. And so I think these are things that like future engineers should be thinking about. Is just like, you know, how can we help with these like health issues as well?
Fantastic. Nick?
Great. Well, I think I would have originally said something along the lines of sustainability, because I think that's people's go-to answer. I think, you know, in terms of sustainability, we're having problems with a bit of a throwaway culture, in that we sort of are just constantly creating new things that we don't really need, and we just dispose of things as soon as trends pass. But I think a sort of greater issue that sort of flows into that, I guess, is the idea that a lot of the things that get created in the world, the reason why they're so disposable is that they're just not, I guess, designed well enough. They're not, they don't place the user in mind, and they don't try and solve their real problem. It's sort of, you know, patchwork fixes. We create we create solutions that just haven't quite been well thought through well enough, and I guess that's a bit symptomatic of a lack of understanding of cultures and social issues, and the real problems that people are facing in the world. So I guess the biggest challenge that we need to solve today, I guess, is designing products more thoughtfully, with regard to, I guess, their end of life, and how those resources will be returned back into the world once we're sort of done using that particular product.
Excellent. Awesome. All stuff that TEDI-London can do. Now, David, from your point of view, what do you think is our biggest challenge?
That's a hard lot of answers to follow, Judy.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, really, the guys have said it all already. I think sustainability is a massive one. You know, we're spending a huge amount of time thinking about how you make the process of construction and building a new town centre more sustainable. Building is inherently resource intensive, so there's a kind of resource efficiency point that's really important. But increasingly, you kind of get to this place of it's about meeting the needs of today without sacrificing our ability to continue meeting tomorrow's demands, and buildings are a massive part of that. You know, we're designing buildings for 60, 100-year lifespans, and there's loads of examples of buildings out there already that are you know, only 20, 30 years old and are being demolished and replaced with something new. So great example in terms of what Nick was just talking about. Yeah. So that's a really big challenge. I think, got to come back to Vivian's answer though. I think that point around communication and communicating ideas seems to be the root of it for me. The more time we spend talking about this stuff, these issues are really complicated, and there's no best answer necessarily. There's lots and lots of inherent trade-offs that are quite hard to flush out and work out what the best response is. And that, combined with the kind of modern culture of social media and 140 character tweets and kind of headline grabbing, clickbait and things, it's really hard to kind of convey some of those very complex pros and cons in terms of what decisions we make as a society and, you know, as communities. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge. You know, there's lots of complex issues out there to solve, but it involves a huge amount of listening. It involves, you know, understanding a real diverse range of issues and being able to bring them together into a coherent argument and a coherent debate that's kind of founded in engineering principles and scientific fact. So I think that's the biggest one for me. Lots of issues, but communication and conveying those ideas is the root of it all.
Fabulous. So they're great responses. Now I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, and you'll all get a chance to answer it. And it's, what do you think is the most transformative thing about TEDI-London, and why should students come and study here, which is the crux of the whole thing? Okay, who's going to start? Mariam, you can start.
So I think the unique thing about TEDI is bringing interdisciplinary teams together. So when you're in a workplace, it's not just going to be engineers that you deal with. You deal with the business team, you deal with the design departments, you know, in order to get that final product. So not only is TEDI helping you become better prepared for your career, but also you're getting different perspectives on a problem that as engineers you might not even think about. Looking back on my 4 years as an undergraduate, I wish I wasn't confined to this engineering bubble where everyone has the same ideas as you, because I feel like we could create better products and devices with these outside views from people who are different from you.
Fantastic. Nyanka.
I think the biggest reason why TEDI-London is so amazing is that I think from day one, as we experienced with the summer school, you're doing something which actually will make a difference, and you're actually working on projects that are real life projects. So I think that's an amazing opportunity to actually be helping the world or making a difference in interdisciplinary teams with different people from day one. So I think that is a really cool thing.
Vivian.
So I think probably the most incredible thing about TEDI is the fact that as an institute, they can see that just because something has been done a particular way by most institutions over time doesn't necessarily mean that that is the right way to do it. And it's an institute that's going to put students effectively first, and your education and your learning first, which for the most part, most universities out there kind of put their research interests above the learning of their students. So TEDI is a place where your learning and your involvement and your outcomes are first and foremost. It's front and center. So I think that's the most transformative thing about TEDI, and I think that's why students should attend.
Nick?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing about TEDI is the fact that you're just working with other people. I've taken elective courses from business schools, from engineering schools, from humanities departments, from design departments, and it doesn't matter what discipline you're in other universities, you're just working towards sort of your own marks. But at TEDI, you're working together towards a shared goal, which I think is just super exciting. It's a little bit more realistic to what you'll experience in the real world when you take on industry.
And David.
I mean, the guys have said it all again, really. I think for me, the biggest thing is the potential. You know, that we need these kind of engineers now. So, you know, the sooner you guys can get on with it and get out there and get an industry and start changing the world, the better.
Yeah, so
that's the biggest thing for me.
The sooner the people out there in the audience come and can study at TEDI, the better. That's right. So thank you all so much. Like it's very exciting for me. I wish I was a student again, but you know, I'm going to, you know, one of my KPIs is that people I talk to have to say, oh, I want to enroll in that. So that's what I try to do, but because I want to make it a degree that everybody wants to study, because the products will be so awesome. So I just wanted to thank you very much, but I'm going to ask if any of the viewers have any questions, and I can see the chat. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I need the host to tell me what to do. I can see the questions.
Go ahead, Judy. Answer the questions. Just shout them out and answer them.
Oh, okay. So the first question is, does TEDI-London offer placements? And we asked Sanjeev, the question is from Sanjeev. The question is, in industry or study abroad? In fact, we will offer both. So we'll offer study abroad, particularly to our host institutions, our founder institutions, ASU and UNSW. And it will be very easy because our model is very flexible, it will be very easy for students to do study abroad, and we will continue to have summer schools every year, which will have our partner universities sending their students every year. So there'll be lots of global opportunities. In industry, every one of our projects will be led by industry, but that doesn't mean you'll be working out in industry for those projects. You'll be working in a team with probably an industry mentor for every project. And then for the master's program, there'll be an opportunity to study for a longer period in industry. So that's how that's going to work. The next question is from Andrew to everyone. So when will TEDI-London be accepting applicants for their first cohort? That is a fantastic question. We're hoping to take our first students 2021, September 2021. So students now not finishing this year, but finishing their A-levels next year. But we also thinking that we will have a diverse range of students of all different ages and backgrounds, not just school leavers. So now I'm supposed to, that's all on the chat. So now I'm allowed to ask the audience if they want to ask direct questions and show us their faces. So please don't be shy. Show us your faces. Everybody's on mute. You can unmute yourself.
So I have a question, Judy. I'll ask on behalf of the audience. We've talked a lot about the education, etc. What will students come out with when they graduate from TEDI-London?
So they'll come out with an accredited engineering degree. We're aiming for it to be a Bachelor of Global Design Engineering. And we have to go through the processes of registration and validation at this stage, but that's what we're aiming for. Come on then, don't be shy. Okay. Just a few more minutes, but otherwise we'll just wrap up. Are there any particular requirements to get in? Here's a good question from Sanjeev. Well done, Sanjeev. That's a perfect question. So there are requirements to get in. It's going to be selective, but not A-level. So we are very adamant that you don't, to make a good engineer, you have to be numerate, but you don't have to have done A-level maths and physics to make a good engineer, even though some people will tell you you do. But you have to be numerate. So we're not looking at A-levels at all, but we're going to require 3 A's: ability, aptitude, and attitude. And the most important of those is attitude. So we need to have students that will take responsibility for their own learning, because it's a very flexible, project-oriented degree. And so you need to want to learn. We have teachers who want to teach, and we want to meet students who want to learn, and then it's like a perfect storm, and we'll get a great product out of it. So we'll have some sort of aptitude test online, which will be test how numeric you are, or how you can do verbal and numeric reasoning. That's important. Then we'll have an ability, and you'll tell us something about your background and things that you've done. And then there'll be an assessment centre where you'll have an interview, or you'll have a project to do, a short project. You'll have some hands-on experiences where we will test your suitability for our type of learning. And that's very important. Okay. Who will be TEDI-London be validating with to bring the program to the students? We're working towards being an independent higher education provider, so we'll have our own degree awarding powers, but we are also working with a validating university, which I don't know whether I'm allowed to say. No, I'm not. But we are working towards having our own degree awarding powers. So hopefully we'll have them by next September.
So I've got one here that was sent to me privately. I think it probably meant to go to everyone. What will the curriculum include, i.e. lecture labs, etc.?
So there'll be no lectures, that's for sure. Unless there's a rock star, superstar academic who comes to visit, there'll be a seminar or a masterclass, but not a lecture. So we won't have scheduled lectures, but we'll have scheduled tutorials and workshops and small group learning, and then projects. So there'll be labs, and students will work through a learning tree, which is an online gigantic computer game where students learn technical and theoretical material just in time, as opposed to just in case, which is the current way of teaching engineering students. And they might be in that learning, in their learning tree nodes where they do 3 hours of work at a time. They might be sent off to do a lab experiment in the lab. So there'll be labs, but they won't be scheduled labs just in case you might need them. They'll be very important little bits of experiments that fit into the projects that you're doing at that time. How large?
One. Yeah, go ahead, Judy. You spotted it.
The teams, 6 to 8 people is what we're looking at for teams, but they'll vary. Some will be individual projects as well. There'll be an opportunity for students to select their own projects or initiate their own projects sometime during the degree. Yeah, 6 to 8 in general. So is that it? Am I wrapping up?
No, there's one more there, Judy, in the chat.
Oh, one more. Oh, Sanjeev, I love you, Sanjeev. How many years is the course and does TEDI offer a master's degree? Yes, we offer an integrated master's degree. So the course is 3 years and 4 years for the master's, typical of an engineering course in the UK. But if you're good enough, you'll have the opportunity to accelerate and do it in 2 years or 3 years, because we're going to operate year round. And so over the summer, there'll be an opportunity to accelerate your degree, but you're not going to be able to do that unless you're good enough. We don't want to set students up for failure. That's really important. Okay, I think, is the summer school just for university students? Yes, at this stage, but Helen's going to tell you about the other summer school we're going to have for schools age students.
So yeah, I can touch on it briefly now. It's still very much in its inception, but we're hoping to lift some of this year's summer school program for university students into a online suite of activities that will run over the summer holidays for prospective students to get involved with and start to experience some of the project-based learning that TEDI-London will offer. It will be able to be taken in short chunks, or we're hoping to be able to design it that if somebody wanted to do all of the activities, they sort of link up and make a neat little program for everyone, for whoever takes part to have a proper achievement over the summer. So do watch this space. We'll be letting you know all about that. There's a few more questions. They're coming in thick and fast now, Judy. This is great.
Yeah, what will it cost the students? So the cost for UK students will be the same, the £9,000, the same as other universities. And for international students, it will be, I'm not sure exactly as yet, we're still working on the business plan, but it'll be similar to King's College, for example, because King's is one of our founders. Is the Learning Tree online matrix something that TEDI-London has created independently? It is. Well, TEDI-London is creating right as we speak. In fact, Vivian's front and center of this, but it is independent. We have created it independently, but it's not unique. There's a university in Australia that has a Learning Tree similar concept. That's Charles Sturt University, so you can look that up. They teach civil engineering, so it's a different degree. That what's on the Learning Tree will be different, but the concept is something similar. I think that's all I've got here. Oh, here we go. Kane, hi Kane. Does the course involve different disciplines of engineering? No. So it's a general engineering course, but the Learning Tree will have all the disciplines in there, and there'll be compulsory material and optional material. And so the optional material, structural engineering, for example, there might be enough optional material in there to do a whole structural engineering course, but you won't get an accredited structural engineering course because the projects will be all more general. So for those that are interested in specific disciplines, there is an opportunity to do a TEDI-London degree and then go to one of our founders for just 1 year and get the other discipline that you're interested in. Are there semesters abroad available? Yes, there will be semesters abroad available, particularly with our founder universities. Okay, I think I'm getting the wrap-up signal. I want to just say thank you to the panelists. You guys have been awesome. You've inspired me, which is great. And I'm sure that you've inspired all those people out there. And I just want to thank everybody for coming as well. This is new for us, but hey, what else can you do when you're stuck in your flat? And on Zoom all day. So thank you very much. I'm going to say goodbye. Does anybody, do I have to do anything else, Helen?
I'm just typing to you, but
oh, I've got to tell you to look at the website, TEDI-London .ac.uk. And it's an awesome website. The branding is magnificent, and you'll all be impressed. And it keeps getting updated quite regularly. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
thanks ever so much, everyone, for joining. We will hopefully see and speak to you all soon.